Hello, I'm now going to upload Daf Nun Gimel. We start from Daf Nun Beis, Amud Beis, the Mishnah at the bottom. And the Mishnah says, Chamor Yoitze b'mardas. Now we know again that a behema is not allowed to carry stuff on Shabbos. There's a mitzvah saseh of shvisas behemtecha. Whatever is a tachshit, whatever is a garment for the animal, then it's not considered a masa, it's not considered a burden. Otherwise, it's considered a burden. So, chamor yaitze b'mardas, bizman sheikshura boy. A donkey can go out with a blanket. It's like a saddle blanket, as long as it's tied on. We'll see in the Gemara what that means. Zechorim, rams, yaitzin levuvin, can go out levuvin. We'll see in the Gemara what that means. Rechelois, yaitzais, shchuzais, kavulois. The ewes, the female sheep, can go out shchuzais, kavulois. We'll see in the Gemara what that means. Ukavunais. Kavunais means that they have this cloth around their body to protect the wool from getting dirty. Ha'izim, goats, yaitzais, tzurais, can go out with something tying their udders. Either it's because you want to stop the milk from coming in, or you want this milk to stop from leaking. But either way, the Tanakama considers this a valid tachshit, a valid garment for the animal. Rabbi Yaisi Aiser Bekulam. Rabbi Yaisi says that all of the above are considered burdens, not really beged. Chutzman harachel lemakvunos, except for the garment that covers the wool of the sheep in order that it doesn't get dirty. Rabbi Yaisi allows that. Regarding what the Tanakama said, that the goats can go out with their udders tied, either to stop the milk from coming in or from leaking, Rabbi Yehuda has a compromise. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer izim yoitzais tzrurais liyabesh. They can go out with their udders tied to stop the milk from coming in, but avaloi la chalev, but not to stop the milk from dripping, because usually that one is just something which covers the end. And if it only covers the end, it may fall off. And if it falls off, then the owner of the goat may pick it up and come to carry it. So if it's really tightly bound to stop the milk from coming in, then it's okay. But if it's just to stop the milk from leaking, I'm afraid that tie may come off and the owner may come to carry it. The first thing we learned in the Mishnah was that a donkey can go out wearing its saddle blanket. Amar Shmuel, Shmuel says, "V'hu shekshura leim erev Shabbos." Only if it was tied on erev Shabbos, and Rashi says that if it's tied on erev Shabbos, evidently it's something that the donkey really needs, and therefore even on Shabbos it can go out with it because you made it obvious the donkey really needs it. But if it's not tied out from erev Shabbos, then it's not so evident that the donkey really needs it, and then it's not allowed. Taisva says that if it's not tied on Me'erev Shabbos, but you'd only tie it on Shabbos, so there's a perception that you might have tied it on Shabbos. Of course, tying means tying in a way that it's allowed, using a bow or something. But anyway, but Taisva says if you tie it on Shabbos, there's a perception as if you tied it on because you want your donkey to transport this blanket from one place to another. So you tied it on and send it out to the Rosh Hashanah so it should carry the blanket for you to another location. The Rosh, the Rabbeinu Usher, brings a Yerushalmi that the problem is not so much the carrying it, but the problem is you're not allowed to tie it on Shabbos, because if you tie it on Shabbos, sometimes it's not easy to tie on. You might come to lean on the animal. So I'm afraid that you're going to be mishtamish b'balei chayim. But we're going to come back to these three pshatim if we have time at the end of this year. Amar of Nachman says, Masnisen Nami Daika. Our Mishnah also indicates that in order for the donkey to go out with the mardas, it had to be tied on from Friday. Diktani, because the next Mishnah says, Ein chamar yoitze b'mardas b'zman she'ein kshura lei. The donkey can't go out with the blanket if it's not tied on. So hechi dami, what does the Mishnah mean? Ilema, if it means to say she'ein kshura lei klal, that the donkey can't go out with a loose blanket on its back, pshita, it's obvious. Because Dilma nafla levasi latuye. The owner can't have his donkey go out with a loose blanket on his back, because if it falls off, the owner may come to carry the blanket. Ella rather lav, she'ena kshura me'erev Shabbos. It's prohibited to send the donkey out if it wasn't tied on the Erev Shabbos. either because of Rashi's pshat or Taisa's pshat. Michlal, which implies the Reisha, that in the Mishnah we just learned, where it does allow you to have, where it does permit the donkey to go out with the blanket, Bisman Shekshura means Shekshura Le'Merev Shabbos, it was tied on from Friday, Shmamina. Again, because if it's not tied on at all, it's obvious that it's Asr. So where's the Mishnah? What does the Mishnah mean? It's mutter if it was tied on, and it's Asr if it's not tied on. It's mutter if it was tied on from Friday, and it's Asr if it wasn't tied on from Friday. Tanya Nami Hachi, there's a brisa that says precisely what Shmuel said. Chamor yotze b'mardas bizman shekshur le'merev Shabbos. A donkey can go out with his blanket as long as it was tied on from Friday. There you are. But v'loy be'ukev afal pi shekshur le'merev Shabbos, but not with a saddle. Because a saddle, even if it was tied on from Erev Shabbos, a saddle is meant either for a person to ride on or to carry stuff on. So that's really a burden, not a balbish. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says, Af be'ukev bizman shekshur le'merev Shabbos, even a saddle, if it was tied on the Erev Shabbos, it's mutter for it to go out, because the saddle also increases warmth on the donkey, and therefore it's considered a malbish. Even if Rabbi Shimon Gamliel allows a saddle, but not to have a band or strap that goes around the length of the animal, nor another type of a strap that goes underneath the animal and back over the back end of the animal. So you can't have one that goes around like this, and you can't have one that goes around like this. And the reason for those other straps is that if there's a load on the back of the donkey, those straps are used to go around the load, so when the donkey is going up a hill or down a hill, the load doesn't slide. So those straps or bands that go around either the horizontally around the animal or vertically around the animal are prohibited, because that's not for the animal's malbish, but rather it's a burden and help it to carry a burden, which it's not carrying on Shabbos anyway. Rav Asi bar Nosson asked Rav Chia bar Ravashi, Mahu litein mardas al gabi chamor b'Shabbos. Are you allowed to even put this blanket on the donkey on Shabbos? Why might it be Asr? So Rav Moshe says that the Isser might be as Tircha Yisera, and so it seems to be indicated from the Gemara, which will continue. We'll go through Rav Moshe's Pshat because I think it's the simplest. So are you allowed to put this blanket on the donkey's back on Shabbos, or is it considered a Tircha Yisera, an unnecessary effort? Omar Lei, so Rav Chia bar Rav Ashi responded, it's mutter. Omar Lei, so Rav Asi bar Nosson asked, V'chima be'zel l'ukif, why is this different than a saddle, where you're not allowed to put the saddle on the donkey on Shabbos? Ishtik, so Rav Chia bar Ashi was silent. Now, Rav Asi bar Nosson misunderstood the silence and thought that the silence meant that Rav Chia bar Ashi held you can even put the saddle on, the same way you can put the blanket on. That's why he didn't answer. So Eisive, therefore, he responded now with a question. Ukev shal gabi chamor, if there's a saddle on a donkey and you want to take it off, lo yital telena biyadei, don't take it with your hand. And the reason is either because it's an unnecessary effort, as we'll see in a second, or because the saddle is muktzah. Ella, rather, what you do is you walk the donkey around in your courtyard hither and thither until the saddle falls off. So now he says, Hashta lital amrit loy, if you're not allowed to take the saddle off, so by putting it on, for sure you shouldn't be allowed to put it on, because it looks like you're now going to burden the donkey. So if you're not allowed to take it off, but rather walk it around till it falls off, certainly you shouldn't be able to put it on. So why do I think that you think that you're allowed to put this saddle on? Omelez or Abzeir said, Shavke, leave Rav Chia bar Ashi alone. Kirabe Svir, he holds like his Rebbe, who holds that to put a blanket on is just straight mutter. Domer Rav Chia bar Ashi Amarav, Toilen Traskel B'Behem B'Shabbos. Rav says you're allowed to put a feed basket around the neck of an animal on Shabbos, which makes it easier for the animal to eat, and that's not called a tircha yiseir. It's not called an unnecessary effort. Kal v'chomer lemardas, and certainly you're allowed to put a blanket on the back of the animal, because ma hasam de mishum tanug. If you're allowed to put the feed basket around its neck, which is just a more pleasurable for the animal to eat, that has the food closer to it, shori, and that's allowed. Hocha mishum tsar like hol sheken. To put a blanket on his back, which will keep it warm because it's uncomfortable when it's cold, then for sure it should be allowed. So the reason he didn't respond to you is because the blanket is mutter, because it's to save the animal from tsar, whereas the saddle he held was usr. And that's why he was quiet, he didn't even bother answering you. Shmuel disagrees with Rav. Shmuel says mardas mutter. To put the blanket on the donkey's back is allowed because you're saving it from discomfort, from cold. But traskel usr, but to put the feed basket around its neck is prohibited because there you're making an effort just in order to make life easier for the animal so that it has ta'anug. For ta'anug it's called the terchi yiseri. You're making too much effort. Azal Rabbi Chia bar Yosef amor l'shmaita derav kamei de Shmuel. Rav Chia bar Yosef told what Rav said, that Rav permitted putting the feed basket around the neck of the animal. He said it to Shmuel. So Amar Lei, so Shmuel says, Yihochi Amar Abba, if Rav says that you're allowed to put that feed basket around the neck of the animal, L'yoda b'mili d'shabsu v'lo klum. He knows nothing about Shabbos, because this is an unnecessary effort just for the animal's pleasure. Kisolik Reb Zeira, when Reb Zeira came from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael, Ashkechei l'Rabbi Binyamin bar Yefes, the Yosef v'kamar le mishmei de Reb Yochanan, he saw Reb Binyamin bar Yefes quoting Reb Yochanan, Nois den mardas agabi chamor b'Shabbos, that you can put a blanket on a donkey's back on Shabbos to save it from discomfort of cold. Omar Leiser Reb Zeira told him, Yasher, that's a good halacha. V'chein tirgema Aryach b'Bavel, and in Bavel, Aryach said the same thing. Who's Aryach? Aryach Manu Shmuel. He goes, wait a minute. But V'Rav Nami Amra, the permission to put the blanket on the donkey's back was not only Shmuel. Rav also said you're allowed to do. Rav said you're allowed to do both. So the permission to put the blanket is not only Shmuel, it's Rav's too. Rather, the Gemara explains, Shamei to have a Messiah b'avein toilet rascal b'Shabbos. Rabbi Yama bar Yefes said in the name of Rabbi Shmuel bar Yefes said, Rabbi Yama bar Yefes said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan that you can't put the feed basket around the neck on Shabbos. So Amar Lei, to which Reb Zeir said, Yasher v'chein tirgema Aryach b'Bavel. Yes, that's what Shmuel said in Bavel, because Rav allows the blanket, which saves the animal from discomfort. He also allows the feed basket, which makes life more easy for the animal, and it's not called Terchi Yisera. Shmuel is not as lenient. Shmuel says you can put the blanket on, and and Rabbi Yochanan also says you can put the blanket on, because that saves the animal from discomfort. But Shmuel and Rabbi Yochanan hold that you can't tie or put the feed basket around the neck of the animal, because that only helps it from, that only gives it the pleasure and ease of making it easier to eat. Dukuli al mamiyas, but everybody seems to agree that mardas mutter, that you're allowed to put the blanket on the back of the donkey. Ma'ishna miyukav, why is it different than a saddle? Shani hasam, the efsher denafel mamela, the removal of the saddle, it can come off by itself. So if it can come off by itself, why should you make the effort to remove the saddle? But here there's no way that the donkey can get the blanket on its back, so you've got to put it on. Rav Papa says, kan lechamima. To put the blanket on is to heat the donkey, and the donkey is suffering from cold. But kan litzanana, why would you want to take the saddle off? Because maybe the donkey is very hot, and if you take the saddle off, it'll cool down. Lechamima is letzara. To warm the donkey is important because it's suffering from cold. Litzanana less letzara. If it's hot and you want to take off the saddle so it cools down, that the donkey doesn't need so badly, because donkeys don't get so overheated. Kind of damriinchi. People have a saying, chamora filibet kufas tamas karirale. A donkey, even in the middle of the summer, a donkey always feels cold. So therefore, if a donkey is always cold, then you're allowed to make the effort on Shabbos to put a blanket on its back, because that is to avoid tsar, and it's not called unnecessary tircha. But to take off a saddle, where now it'll be able to cool off a little bit, that the donkey doesn't need so badly. Meisive, the Gemara now asks a kasha. Shmuel and Rabbi Yochanan said that even though you're allowed to put a blanket on the donkey to save it from the discomfort of cold, but you're not allowed to put the basket around its neck in order to ease its ability to eat. Meisvei, the Gemara now responds with a kasha from a brisa. Lo yetze hatzus biznav shul. A horse shouldn't go out with a foxtail. It's something against an ayin hara. It's worth a kapara, and it's just a burden on the horse. V'loy bizaruris shebein einav, and not with a red string between its eyes. That also is useless, and it's just a burden. Lo yetze hazav b'kis shalei. A zav shouldn't go out with a bag which will catch ziva, because the purpose of that is only to be able to keep track whether he has one excretion, 2 or 3, whether he's tamei for the day, or he needs 7 clean days, or will he need a korban. But that's not really a tachshit for him. It's a measuring instrument, and therefore it's a burden. And the goat shouldn't go with a cup or something attached to their udder to catch milk, because catching milk is a burden for the goat. A cow shouldn't go with a muzzle around its mouth, because the muzzle is it shouldn't eat in somebody else's field. That's not a benefit to the cow. That's not considered a tachshit for the cow. And young donkeys shouldn't go out with baskets around their necks or for their mouths into the street. An animal shouldn't go out with a shoe on its foot, because it may come off and the owner may come to carry it. We'll go through this stuff later. An animal also shouldn't go out with some amulet which will protect it from disease, even though it's a proven amulet. Seemingly, an animal cannot go out with the amulet, but a person can go out with a proven amulet. But the animal may go out with a bandage on its wound. That's mutter. B'kashishin shal gabi hashever, with splints on a broken bone. B'shilya hamaduldelas ba, if it has a amniotic sac which is trailing from it, that's also considered part of its body still, so that's okay. Paikikan lazuk shebetzavar, as long as you dull the clapper in a bell, then the animal can go around with a bell, umitayelas imay b'chotzer, to walk in a chotzer, not in the street. Because if an animal has a bell in the street, it has a perception as if you're taking it to market for sale. That's how they used to have it. Even though you silenced the clapper. But if you silence the clapper and it's in your own chotzer, it's okay. So, Ktani miyas, but in the Brisa it said, V'loi sayachan shebetraskelim shebepiyam l'shus harabim. It said that the young donkeys cannot go out with the baskets around their necks into the street. It's mashma l'shus harabim uduloi. They can't wear it out into the street. Habachotzer shaper dami. But in your own courtyard it's mutter. And my love, would you not say, B'gedolim, that we're talking about a large donkey, and a large donkey would be able to bend down. Its head can reach the floor to eat. And the reason why, and still you can put the basket around its head in the chotzer, mishum tanuk, just in order for it to have pleasure. Let me explain. Tosfos explains that all these things that the Mishnah said, the horse can't go out with the foxtail and with the red string, and the zav can't go out with his cup, and the goats can't go out with a cup to catch milk, etc., all said they can't go out into the Rishus Harabim. So it's clear that the whole Brisa was talking about the prohibition of carrying things out Rishus Harabim. So why did the Brisa have to say that the donkey can't go out with the feed basket in its mouth Rishus Harabim? Why did it have to add the words Rishus Harabim? So Tosfos says, because he wanted to make an implication. Into the Rishus Harabim you can't go, but in the Rishus HaYochid you can even put it on. That's why the Gemara is assuming that in the Rishus HaYochid you can even put it on. Because if it simply meant to say that you can't carry it out in the Rishus Harabim, but it could carry it in Rishus HaYochid, it never had to add the words that it shouldn't carry it out into the Rishus Harabim, because the whole Brisa was talking about things that an animal or person can't carry out into Rishus Harabim. So since it added the word Rishus Harabim, it's to imply in Rishus Harabim you can't carry it out, of course, but in the Rishus HaYochid you can even put it on. I'm also assuming that we're talking about a large donkey that could really reach the ground and eat grass or whatever food you put on the ground. So then why are you allowed to put the basket on? Because it's just for its ease, for its benefit of pleasure. So you see the Brisa allows to put the basket on for its benefit and pleasure, and not like Shmuel and Rabbi Yochanan who prohibited it. The Gemara says, no, lo'ilam b'ktanim. It's speaking about a young donkey. Mishum tsar, a young donkey can't reach the ground to get food, and therefore it's going to suffer the discomfort of trying to reach food. So therefore you're allowed to put the traskel around its neck because you're saving it from discomfort. The same way you're allowed to put a blanket on a donkey to save it from discomfort. In Deikanami, if you read precisely, you'll see Diktani that it said Dumya de Kameya, similar to the amulet. And the amulet is something which protects an animal from disease or illness, which is discomfort. So Shmami know that here also the basket that you're putting around its neck is to save it from the discomfort because it can't reach the ground. But if it's a bigger donkey that couldn't reach the ground, and putting the thing around its neck is only to make it more, make it easier for the animal, just to give it the pleasure and ease of accessibility, so then Shmuel and Rabbi Yochanan might be right that it will be a tirchi seira for you to do that for the animal. So that's the end of part 1, and I'm going to upload it now.